Welcome back. So, today we are going to look at a case from Texas death row. That sounds like a Hollywood thriller, but the consequences were entirely real and tragic even. This is the story of Linda Carty, a former primary school teacher whose obsession with keeping a relationship led to a mastermind plot. In 2001, Linda Carty was desperate to prevent her boyfriend from leaving her. Stop me if this sounds familiar to you, that line. But to do this, she claimed she was pregnant and constructed a massive lie. But as the delivery date approached, she had to produce a baby. Instead of confessing, Carty recruited 3 men by promising them drugs and cash. Her target was her neighbor, Joana Rodriguez, who had just given birth to a beautiful newborn son. On May 16th, 2001, the men broke into the home, abducting both the mother and the infant. While the baby was miraculously found safe in a car, Joana tragically lost her life. When investigators sat down with Carty in the interrogation room, her shifting stories, alibis, and attempts to claim the baby as her own quickly fell apart under intense questioning. In 2002, a jury found Linda Carty guilty of capital murder, and she was sentenced to death. It stands as a chilling lesson in how far unchecked deception can spiral, doesn't it? Now, let me bring your focus to how the investigators uncovered the plot through physical evidence. To understand how this case was built, we have to look at the forensics. Investigators didn't just rely on confessions. They found critical physical evidence linking Carty directly to the staging area inside a rental car associated with Carty. In fact, all 3 were. Police discovered in one baby clothes, a diaper bag, and an infant car seat that she had purchased even just days prior. This proved premeditation. Cell phone towers also placed her in direct communication with the co-conspirators. During the exact hours even the abduction took place, completely shattering her initial alibi that she was a bystander. So let me give you the blueprint, because together today we analyze the psychology of the interrogation, and the decades of legal battles that followed. When confronted with the phone records and the store receipts for the baby items, Carty's demeanor shifted from cooperation to defense. Investigators noted her patterns of oversharing irrelevant details to distract from direct questions. A classic psychological defense mechanism. Though she was sentenced to death in 2002, this case has dragged on for like 2 decades due to the high profile international appeals because Cardi is a British citizen. The UK government has repeatedly intervened, filing briefs, claiming her defense counsel was inadequate. Yet Texas courts have consistently upheld the conviction based on the sheer volume of evidence. The purpose of my video today is to provide a broad, powerful lesson on psychology and the consequences that my viewers and the general public can relate to. This case, remains a chilling study in extreme psychological deception. It shows what happens when an individual refuses to accept reality and resorts to a web of manufactured lies to control the situation. The tragedy cost an innocent mother her life and left a family shattered, serving as a permanent reminder that truth eventually forces its way into the light, no matter how elaborate the cover-up. She continues to deny the crime 20 years later even, and how her British citizenship, changed the course of her legal battle. The blueprint shows us that she continues her claims of innocence in interviews and psychological concept of staying stuck in a false narrative. Decades after her conviction, Linda Carty sat down for interviews, including a notable documentary appearance where she flatly denied her involvement. She even said, I quote, "I can truthfully look you in the eye and tell you I had nothing to do with this crime," even when faced with overwhelming evidence. Forensic even, so she maintained anyway. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got my thoughts together. This is a tough one for me because it was just such a horrible crime, and I find myself, when I'm putting together a lesson of a case I already know that well and seeing repeated again, lots of information, far more, when you want to see it, it's brought to you. But anyway, let's focus on the facts. True crime analysts and psychologists frequently study this behavior. When an individual has lived inside a manufactured narrative for over 20 years, admitting the truth means the ultimate consequence of their actions. For Cardi, maintaining a mask of total innocence is a defense mechanism to cope with the reality of Texas death row, refusing to take responsibility even when the legal case is completely closed. Now I will explain the international treaty laws, consular rights, and why the UK government got involved. The script lines many viewers many viewers wonder, how does being a British citizen impact a Texas death penalty case? Under international law, specifically in the Vienna Convention, foreign nationals must be informed of their right to contact their consulate, immediately upon arrest. In Cardi's case, British officials were not notified until after the conviction. This procedural error, let's call it, triggered a massive international legal battle. The UK government, which opposes the death penalty, as a matter of policy, stepped in to fund her appeals, arguing that her original defense was severely inadequate. While her foreign citizenship does not erase her guilt or overturn her conviction, the heavy involvement of international lawyers is the primary reason her execution has been delayed for decades, while other inmates' cases moved forward. When investigators first brought Linda Carty into the interrogation room, she did not confess. Instead, she attempted to position herself even as an informant who was trying to help the police. She claimed she had rented cars, or a car, for each co-conspirator, because they threatened her, and that she was actually conducting her own independent investigation to save the baby. Detectives immediately recognized this as a redirection tactic. They let her speak for hours, without interruption, allowing her to commit to a highly specific timeline. By letting her weave an elaborate story, investigators trapped her. They already held the cell phone tower data that completely contradicted her whereabouts during those exact hours even. The real turning point in this segment, though, I will bring you to the investigation because it happened in separate interrogation rooms. Housing the 3 men Cardi recruited, investigators expertly played the suspects against one another. They showed the men the rental car agreements, signed exclusively in Linda Carty's name, realizing they were facing capital murder charges, while Carty was attempting to frame them as the sole masterminds. The men turned on her. They confessed that Carty was the conductor of the entire operation, proving she had provided the cash, specified the target house, and explicitly instructed them to take the newborn baby at all costs. As the interrogation crossed the multi-hour mark, detectives stopped listening to her narrative and began laying physical evidence on the table. They produced the store receipts showing Carty buying a car seat and baby clothes days before Joana Rodriguez was even abducted. They also said her co-conspirator admitted she told him that she would cut the baby out of her mother if she had to, was her quote, with the surgical supplies, it turns out, that included scissors, washcloths, and a stethoscope. She had also bought on the same day as the baby clothes a car seat and a pair of scrubs. The store clerk was even brought into court to testify that Linda was identified by her on the day in question buying these items in person. She had clearly been watching and waiting on this woman while very pregnant, but didn't realize that while she was out shopping, Joana had given birth. Furthermore, her co-conspirator, named Chris, was told to kill everybody but the baby. And in return, supposedly in the apartment, were several kilos of marijuana and a lot of money to be had. The shift in Cardi's demeanor was immediate. Documented police logs show she moved from high energy talking to total silence. Refusing even to look at the photographs of the evidence. This psychological collapse in the interrogation room became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, demonstrating to the jury that her innocence was a complete lie. Now, put yourself in the detective's shoes for a moment. How would you respond to a suspect who claims they bought the items listed just by coincidence? To truly understand, though, the darkness of this plot, we have to look at the psychological motive. Linda Carty had suffered previous miscarriages and was physically unable to have another child. Her obsession with keeping her boyfriend led her to a point of complete desperation. But instead of seeking help, she decided to treat another woman's newborn baby as a prize to be stolen. In doing so, though, she treated the life of the biological mother, remember, Joana Rodriguez, as if she had absolutely zero value, even. Cardi knew that a mother would fight to the death to protect her newborn, so she ensured Joana was eliminated just to prevent her from calling 911 or fighting back. It is a terrifying look at an absolute selfishness. Stop and think about that for a second. How can someone become so consumed by their own desires that they completely erase the humanity of an innocent young mother? What does that also tell us about the warning signs of extreme narcissism? The collateral damage, though, I gotta tell you, of Cardi's deception didn't even stop with the victims. It extended deep into her own family. At the time of the murder, Cardi had a 12-year-old daughter. Instead of protecting her child and being a grateful, present mother, Cardi chose a path that landed her on death row. But the manipulation didn't even end there. Over the last 20 years, Cardi has managed to completely convince her daughter of her innocence. Today, that daughter has children of her own, struggling financially, yet she continues to put her hard-earned money onto her mother's prison commissary books. Cardi continues to drain her own family's resources. From behind bars even, maintaining a lie that forces her daughter to support her decades later even. Consider the generational impact here. How fair is it for a convicted mastermind to continue manipulating her own child from prison, taking food out of her grandchildren's mouths just to keep up a false narrative? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on that one. So, to wrap up, the story of Linda Carty is a stark reminder of how far a person can go when they are consumed by deception. control, and a total disregard for the lives of others. From the initial plot to the ongoing manipulation of her own family from behind bars, the ripples, right, of this crime are still being felt over 2 decades later. So the call to action as I end this would be, I want to hear from you. What part of this case shocked you the most? Is it the continued denial despite the forensic evidence, or the heavy toll that has taken on her own daughter? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read and reply to all of them. If you found, though, this deep dive valuable, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson. Thank you for spending time with me today. And keep seeking the truth and stay both safe and healthy till next time. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.